problem is we are very, very close to our northern boundary, and they could well cross out at any stage. They could also veer towards Buffalo's Hook Dam, which again isn't far from here, but it would mean they would be changing their general movements of direction. I do want to try and move the vehicle now though and get ahead of them, in the fear that it may be our last view of them, so I do want to try and make the most of it. And when we do reposition, we're going to have absolutely beautiful golden afternoon sunlight behind us. Thick round leaf teak thicket here, but they are continuing north, and I think we should just get into position so that we do have a great shot of them before they in all likelihood cross out of our property. Turn around here. You got them there, Brian? Okay, perfect. Just gonna keep going a little bit backwards, because if they carry on the path that they're coming on, they might pop out just behind us, which would be no good. They are now slowly mobile towards Buffalo's Hook cut line. This is absolutely beautiful with the golden afternoon sunlight. And even though this may be a brief sighting, it's going to be a good one. We're on Buffalo's Hook cut line watching the others cross over. Well, you don't get much better than this. Perfect afternoon light. And we're going to watch the whole pride cross over one by one in front of us. And timing is everything out here, and we've got very, very lucky this afternoon, because if we were just a few minutes later, we would have missed this. I cannot tell you how hard it is just watching them drift off to the north, where we cannot go after all the time we've spent hoping to follow them on the move. We've been spoiled with a brief glimpse of it, but you can't help but want a little bit more than this. I think some of the other Pride members crossed behind us sneakily, 2 of them, but there may well be the young male still on the way. We've got another vehicle that's just joined us. I think they do have permission to follow them, so it's good news for them. Sorry, I had my volume down there.
Can I just come in there?
Absolutely beautiful. So I've just been communicating with the other vehicle here, trying to help them with directions as to where they should go. And I'm just going to try and swivel the vehicle to the side here, Brian, so there's a few more crossing the road that may provide you with one more opportunity.
Just to let you know, there's one my daughter still on a cheetah cut line just close to the 5 rack moving towards you.
Copy. Thank you very much for that. Enjoy your afternoon with them. And here we've got the...
Have a look and see what happens. Yeah, thanks very much. We've got it now.
Here comes the young male right at the back. Absolutely awesome.
But sorry, Brian Sarah with me. You just said I should say hi to you.
Copy. Thanks very much. Well, folks, like I said, it was a brief sighting, but great quality, and sometimes that is the perfect scenario to have. Yesterday we had quantity, but not necessarily the best quality, and look at this, absolutely awesome. I'm glad I'm not an antelope in the direction that they're heading in, because they're heading through some great thick cover there, and I'm hoping they have a successful afternoon hunting. Whew. Well, that was an unexpected but very, very pleasant surprise. And the good thing is that now we can go and look for something else. So there are positives to every scenario, even if it is waving lions goodbye minutes after finding them. I guess what helped in this case is that it was pure luck that took us to those lions. There was no skill involved. Their tracks did actually pop out onto the road, but we had spotted them from further than where their tracks actually started on the road. It would have been nice to have seen some tracks and got all really excited about the prospects of finding these lions, but we didn't even have the opportunity for that. On Twitter, or send an email through to questions@WildEarthTV. So please send through any questions you may have, ideally on something that we've seen or something that's relative to kind of what's going on, and that way we can keep a flow and start a conversation, you could say, and build it in a certain direction. And we really do appreciate all the questions you do send through. If we don't answer your question, I apologize in advance, but keep trying, and eventually your question will be answered. You just have to remember there's many, many people watching this show, so it's tricky to get everyone's questions through to us. Okay, well, we are about to unveil the beauty that is Buffelshoek Dam, but I am just going to try and position us in a good spot. So bear with me for a moment as we get into position.
Yes, Alec. Straight in here. Sorry, I'll put you closer to the gas lights. You don't mind us coming along here? That's fine. We'll move in the way. We'll see the last two going out.
And we've just got a question through from Rhonda in Kentucky. Good evening, and thanks for sending your question through. Rhonda would like to know if any of the water holes here in the Sabi Sands are artificially pumped if they dry out, and yes, a few of them are, not all of them. This one, for example, I believe is not pumped into, but the Djuma water hole, if need be, can be pumped into, but it does depend on the scenario and on the landowner's decision at the end of the day. The sun is just about to drop below the eastern horizon, probably about in another half an hour or so. And when it does drop below the horizon, that hippo that you can see will get out, oh, good evening, and start feeding on grass. So that's what hippos eat. They require about 40 kilograms of grass every evening. And I think if it does one of those snorts again, we're going to have a beautiful, beautiful shot with this golden tinge on the water. There's a lot of fish in this dam, and that is in all likelihood what is causing all of the bubbles that we can see. Oh, there we go. Hello, boy. Beautiful. So a bit of a display he just performed there for us. They like to open their mouth and show off those massive teeth, which are not used for feeding, but used for fighting with other hippo. They will obviously also use them to defend themselves, and it just goes to show the Nkuhuma pride that managed to take down a hippo just a few days ago, the lions we've just seen, and they took it down just on the fringe of this dam, actually. It's not an easy business, and even though it wasn't a fully grown hippo like this one, fully grown hippo would have been around. And I've actually seen footage of a hippo biting a lion onto a lioness's head, and her whole head disappeared into his mouth, and then he flung her around and tossed her into the bushes. She miraculously got up and walked off, but she did have a puncture wound through the middle of her bottom jaw into her mouth, which healed, and she survived. But risky business, and very dangerous animals, the hippos, to us as humans and to other animals that get in their way, even though they are just herbivores. Oh, some more showtime. I'm hoping he's going to vocalize for us. They often do vocalize in conjunction with this kind of display behavior. It's interesting, he's been spending almost every day, I'm guessing it is him, and I wonder when he'll move off and look for some ladies, or maybe he's retired. and spending the last few days of his life in solitude and peace and quiet. Anyway, we're going to hang around here and see if any animals come down for a drink or if this hippo continues to perform for us. And I believe Mark's got a beautiful sighting lined up for you, so enjoy what he has in store.
Every now and then, these skeletons are adorned with an addition that is a true wonder to behold, and this is one of them. This is one of the larger of the eagles that we get here. It's cousin to the golden eagle. It is called a tawny eagle. And I've had to stop suddenly because I didn't want him to fly. I wanted to show you one of the most majestic eagles that we have here. And to see these eagles in flight and doing their mid-air flight and mating displays is quite remarkable. With impala in the background, making their rutting noises. It is a true aquila. It belongs to the genus Aquila. It is one of the true eagles, and you can tell one of the features of the true eagles is that they're feathered all the way down to the feet. You know, if you think of eagles, you think of the majestic golden eagle, you think of the quintessential eagle shape and its ability to hunt. And I guess those are the eagles that belong to the genus Aquila, because all of the other eagles, the snake eagles and some of the fish eagles, the sea eagles, they're all, I wouldn't say lesser eagles, because they're majestic in their own right, but they aren't really considered the true eagles. And whoever devised this nomenclature and whoever made it all up, it does lend itself towards the bigger and more majestic eagles. Now, the tawny eagle is very similar in habits to an eagle that we saw this morning. In fact, we saw two eagles this morning. We saw a pair of Bateleur snake eagles, also known as the short-tailed eagle, and they are snake eagle family, not considered the true eagles. They don't have feathered legs all the way down to the feet, and they are the Bateleur, actually, they and the tawny eagle are both as much scavengers as they are hunters. Now, I'm wondering if maybe this tawny eagle isn't here for some reason, or it's maybe decided to land here and spend the night. I'd like to try and get around to the other side of this tree without him flying so we can see him in the sunlight, because the sun's about to set. We're at sunset right now. It also looks like he's listening to every word I'm saying, he or she. Hard to tell the difference without the other mate here, because the female will be a lot larger than the male. And looking at an eagle on its own in a tree, it's hard to gauge the size of it. But this is a pretty large eagle. I've found the remains of things like steenbok and duiker and vervet monkey and guinea fowl and a bunch of other prey species underneath tawny eagle nests. Let's see if we can get to the other side, just so that we can get a view with the light on his chest. I'm saying he does because it kind of gives off the aura that it's a male for some reason. Also a beautiful sunset setting in our western sky. And I'm hoping just after sunset that we might just see the first sliver of the new moon. Welcome to Africa and an eagle sunset. No, don't. I can see you want to fly. Please. anyway. I'll back off a bit instead of going underneath him, because that'll really set him off. There's also a flower, and I use that excuse. Oops. I can hear the crown plovers or the lapwings complaining because there's an eagle up here in the tree. Don't go anywhere, eagle. Look at this flower. There's another flower for the Monday afternoon or Monday evening. Flower for the ladies. You can't go there. You can't go there. You can if I change my angle. I've got to turn around for the eagle anyway. So this is a potato flower. There's the eagle. Oh, it's gone. Alright, we'll get a better sunset. Here I am trying to get the flower, and I'll move to the eagle now. But it's the dry season, and to get a flower is a special thing. So just over my shoulder, a solanum. There is actually a cultivated plant known as a solanum. It's grown into topiaries and standards. They obviously breed it to be a lot. This is like a pale mauve, pale lilac. The actual, or rather the one that is cultivated is much deeper purple than that. We're not going to get the sun setting under that dead tree because there's a bush willow in the way. But I'm going to... Tawny will let us... We'll have to take a little bit of a detour to get to him. Maybe just a view from here in case he flies. I'm trying to get closer. Apex predator, predator of the skies. Its name is actually Aquila rapax. And rapax comes from the word rapacious, or maybe it's the other way around. Raptor. The very word raptor, which describes which is really any bird of prey, is known as a raptor. Also comes from the word rapacious. And this is one of the most of all, the tawny eagle. There was a dove sitting up there. It was a nice comparison because the dove is a small bird, and it was about the size of the tawny's head. It's a little bit smaller than a golden eagle. I think the golden eagle is a little bit bigger. The golden eagle is sort of the first cousin to the tawny eagle. But as you can see, a very majestic bird. And, well, I'd give anything to have that kind of freedom, that freedom of three-dimensional flight that an eagle has, or any bird really, but for those that soar. An eagle sunset. If I can't do an early sunset, I'll do an eagle sunset. So we try one last bit for a frontal view of the tawny.
Mark, you copy FC?
No.
Just hold up your hand out.
Way above my head.
There's an eagle up there.
is for Brazilian Insignia. Name Sergeant Sean on Rock Station.
Do you copy?
No. What was that?
What's the difference between a hawk and an eagle? Tina writes.
Tina. Difference between a hawk and an eagle. Different birds. Difference between a lion and a leopard. Difference between a wildebeest and an impala. They both birds of prey. They're just different birds of prey. Hawk, however, is more of a general term for us here in South Africa, and unfortunately nomenclature has very grey areas because it becomes semantics really. I mean, we talk about the red-tailed hawk, which we would probably call a buzzard in this country, like we would have the jackal buzzard or the honey buzzard or the steppe buzzard. The red-tailed hawk would... I don't actually... I must check the scientific name of the red tail. If anybody can send that to me, maybe. Yeah. Okay. Well, from this beautiful sunset, if we can just get it quickly, because we're going to be losing it. As you view the sunset, I'm going to hand you back over to Scott, and we're going to make our way back to Djuma, where I can pick up better signal from final control. And I'll see you before then to drive, no doubt.
Welcome back to a splendid evening here at Buffelshoek Dam. It sounds like Mark lined up a beautiful, beautiful sighting of a tawny eagle silhouetted in the sunset, and I could only imagine the screenshots that were getting fired off there. Now, when you left us, we were with the hippo, and we are still with this hippo. He seems to have calmed down though. Maybe he knows that we switched over to Mark and stopped performing. I'm not sure, but he literally has not performed any more of those wide open mouth displays since you left us. We've been tempted to stick around in the hope that he'll do it again, but as you can see, it looks like his little performance may be over for this evening. It was also a great opportunity for us just to sit quietly and listen to the bush. You just heard birds calling, and there's nothing wrong with not hearing alarm calls. It's so peaceful to just stop and listen. He said he did have her vocalizing quite a lot. Now, the rasping call of a leopard can be heard from a few kilometers away. Probably 4 or 5 kilometers on a still evening like this, which is around 3 or 4 miles. And if she does call, that will certainly help us determine where she is. And let's just see when this hippo comes up again, if he doesn't give us one last performance. I've got a feeling like he might. Although where has he gone? Usually you can see when they are moving. This dam isn't very deep, so you can see slight ripples. And I'm guessing he's probably going to pop up not far from where... Oh no, he is moving. I can see ripples off to the right, I think there, Brian, or am I dreaming? It could be my mind playing tricks on me. Well, anyway, we'll wait and see. He's got to pop up in anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. That's how long they can hold their breath for, but he won't necessarily hold it for that long.
Thanks very much, Wayne. I think we're going to leave you now and just take the kids home.
Maybe he's practicing his final performance under the water. Here he is. He has just popped up. And is he going to give us one last show? maybe one more practice underwater. We'll give you one more chance to practice your move, Mr. Hippo. And then we're going to continue on and see what else we can find. You can hear some yellow-billed hornbills calling off in the background. Okay, well, it appears like this hippo's show was a brief one, and I think it does make sense for us to head back into the area actually where we found the lion, in the hope that we may find Karula there. So, without further ado, let's be off. Excuse me, I feel like I may be coming down with a slight cold, nothing to be concerned about, but hence the sneezing and the slightly blocked nose. Apologies for that. Pamela and Angela, good evening, and thanks for sending your question through to us. They're interested to know how giraffe, being such a big and tall animal, are so elusive here in the Sabi Sands. And the simple reason for that, Pamela and Angela, is because there aren't many here. It's not that they're elusive, it's just that they're not actually here. There's not many of them. There were certainly more in the summer months than there are now, and it may fluctuate. We may have more coming in later in winter. But at the moment there certainly are not many giraffe around. Having said that though, when I drove past Twin Dams this morning, I saw tracks of one individual that would have come from inside Djuma, past Twin Dams and then out to the south. So they are around, but there's just not many of them. It's not that they are hard to find. Their tracks are very easy to see on the road. They're huge tracks. So when they are around, you can typically find them fairly easily. It's just that this is the wrong habitat for them. They don't like it here. Other animals do, they don't. Giraffe and zebra and wildebeest, are another two animals that may occur very widely in other parts of Africa, yet here in the Sabi Sands, there aren't too many. So there certainly are pros and cons to any of the wilderness destinations you may ever decide to go to, and it's worth researching that before you do book in at any certain places. You may have seen a few crested francolins a little bit earlier scurrying across the road. Just thinking back to the brief but awesome sighting we've had of the Nkuhuma pride, we've had an incredible time viewing them almost for a whole week now. From Monday last week until today, we've seen them every single day, sometimes morning and afternoon, and I hope you've enjoyed the lion sightings we've had. We certainly have. They've been sleeping a lot of the time, but at least they've been on the property. And again, it's patience that you need to employ in order to be able to see the special things out here. And we certainly racked up a lot of credits with the sleepy lions, so our time spent with them sleeping will pay off eventually, I hope, because it's been a while since we've seen some serious action with them. I was just chatting with Brian, saying that as we go deeper into the winter, our chances of seeing big cats in action will increase every single day. The fact that it becomes cooler and cooler into the winter months means it's more likely that they will become active, like the lions we've just seen in the late afternoon. And that will certainly help us, because our broadcasts are mainly during the daylight hours. To film after dark without having an impact on what the animals are doing, you have to have a whole specific night vision rig set up, because as soon as you start shining spotlights, you start interfering with the natural flow of what would usually happen. For example, if you shine the spotlights on the leopard or the lion, you clearly give away their position to the prey. If you shine the spotlights on the prey, you blind them, making it very easy for the predator to catch them. So your only option then is to sit in the dark, and that's not much fun. So that explains why we haven't or don't really spend too much time out after dark at the moment, but it's something that may change in the future. And with the rate that technology is expanding and becoming far better, I think it won't be long until we can start doing some night drives following these animals on the move. And it's fair to say that even lions, though lions and leopards are not strictly nocturnal, the majority of the action does happen at night, especially in this area. It will vary in different parts of Africa. So again, just to recap, Karula, the female leopard, was seen just on our right-hand side this morning coming towards us, before she veered off and continued back in towards that area. But she could well have changed back and come to the west, which is what I'm hoping we're going to find now.
Alec, coming for Brian. Alec. Alec, standing by. Afternoon, Alec. How's it? We just got here and leaving on game drive now.
It doesn't seem like Karula has come this way. This is one of the best roads to actually track on the property. And it's here that the lions joined onto the road, so they would have crossed over from right to left onto the road. And they didn't travel very long along this road before they cut off again, and that's where we found them. Brian spotted them from probably a quarter of a mile away. It was a long distance visual, and at first he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. He wasn't sure what it was that he had seen, but we both rejoiced like little kids on Christmas Day when we realized that it was in fact a pride of lion we had stumbled onto. I wonder how far they've got now. Like I said, it's always a bit sad waving animals goodbye as they head off onto another property, but it is a reality out here, and almost all wilderness destinations that you will go to will have certain boundaries and perimeters where you may or may not be able to go. But all in all, we get spoilt, and that's what's made this area such a popular game viewing destination. There are very, very many lodges in a relatively small area here, and that is a testament to the great game viewing that happens. It brings in so many tourists that want to come here. Now, interestingly enough, this wilderness area was initially bought by a group of private people, private entities, who decided that they would almost kind of pioneer this area and try and do a bit of mixed game ranching and cattle ranching. So the wild animals would still occur. Back then, when it was first started, oh, look at this, some kudu. In the 1940s, 1950s, it was used for hunting and cattle farming. But now, well, since the 60s, hunting was stopped, photography substituted it, and all the cattle were taken off. It was, however, still fenced in, and it was 65,000 hectares, full of big game and the big five, all the main stars of the show, but it was a relatively small ecosystem. And then in the early 90s, they dropped the fences to the Greater Kruger National Park, opening up this relatively small ecosystem to a massive one. And this has allowed free flow of beautiful animals like these kudu that we are watching now. Now, the offspring of those pioneers who bought this land and tried cattle farming here were all lucky in that they inherited this land, and the majority of them have developed commercial lodges on their properties for the very reason that I've just been chatting about. The game viewing you get here is phenomenal, and what we're about to see here is a phenomenal bull kudu who's following this herd of ladies, and look at how majestic he is. He is in prime condition, and the reason why he's following these ladies is that he's hoping to mate with them. It is the mating season for a lot of the antelope. They'll mate now in order to give birth during the first summer rains in October, November, December and January. And depending on the individual antelope, their gestation is roughly around 6 months. You'll notice how their camouflage blends them in so well into the vegetation. The vertical white stripes help chop their body up into little puzzle pieces with the vertical branches of the trees. And what a wonderful sighting that was. Great stuff. Well, that was a pleasant surprise. Anyway, I guess the initial people who bought land here in the Sabi Sands we owe thanks to, and also all of the founders of national parks, not only here in South Africa but around the world. Imagine life without these safe havens for wildlife, and it was generally just a few people that instigated these operations and ensured that we do have some awesome untouched wilderness left to explore. and to allow animals to exist as they have for hundreds and thousands of years. Well, as we casually freewheel down this hill, we're going to be listening out for any sounds or signs of animals, and we'll cross over to Mark and see what he's been up to for the last little bit. We'll catch up with you later.
Good evening and welcome to this post-sunset glow here at Djuma Game Reserve. Monday afternoon, Monday evening. Beautiful clear skies. Going to have the stars coming out pretty soon. We're hoping that we might be able to see just the first sliver of the new moon. Excuse me, Franklins. Hello. Well, they are an interesting species of francolin because they're not the usual crested francolin that we see all the time. They're actually quite different. So it'd be interesting if any of you want to maybe hazard a guess and tell me which spurfowl these are. There's a little bit of light on them, if they don't mind. Very pretty little things. Seems to be a male and female and some of their chicks. Thank you. Good night. On. I did hear something off to our left just as I started up. That was the sound of the francolins flying off. Well, sadly we haven't found any wild goose, although we've been chasing them all day in the form of cat prints. Even now, as the sun was going down with the sunset, I was chasing after cat prints, big leopard tracks that looked like it was probably the leopard that lives here, the big male. This is, we're on the sort of northeastern side of Arathusa, and big male leopard that lives here, the leopard by the name of Tigana, is a magnificent big male. But of course, unfortunately, the signal wasn't working in our favor, so we're heading back to Djuma, and I'm hoping in this early evening light we might be able to find something. You know, this is the way life, this is the way nature works in the bush. It's not a constant barrage of animals that you don't know where to look. Sometimes it can be, sometimes we can be surrounded by elephants, you don't know which one to look at. But to find animals is not an easy task. Driving around and trying to find tracks, maybe trying to follow tracks, or hoping to stumble upon them, hoping to maybe hear them feeding, as is the case with elephant or even buffalo sometimes. Or follow other signs that tell us that the animal's about. Sometimes we might see vultures dropping out of the sky that can tell us that there's a kill somewhere. Sometimes we hear things that give us an indication of what's going on. But as you can see, we don't have very much visibility beyond the edge of the road, and well, sometimes we have so much happening and sometimes we battle to find things. What makes this so different from a program that you might find that has been filmed over many, many months or even years it into half an hour. James, Kansas City. Nice to hear from you, James. The question is about the silver cluster leaf. Of course, we're not on a seep line right now, so we don't have any of them around me. And of course, it's not flowering time, but James wants to know if females and the males occur on the same tree or if they're separate trees. James, as far as I know, I'm not 100% sure. And sometimes books don't mention it. But as far as I'm aware, the silver cluster leaf belongs to the same family as all the bush willows. Now that I'm sure of. They all belong to the family of trees known as the Combretums, the Combretacea. And the Combretum family, to my knowledge, have both sexes on the same flower. So, yes, both sexes on the same tree. But I'd have to confirm it. It's not something that is generally asked. Certainly an interesting question out of the blue, because it's not something that everybody would consider. Donna and Shelley, all the names. A lot of Koki, there was a Shelley's Franklin. So I think Joanne got it right, that was a Shelley's Franklin. The Koki Franklin, the one we saw this morning, very similar, but half the size. And I know it's very difficult for you to gauge size just looking at the camera, or rather looking at the picture we present to you. But thanks for your answers on the Franklin. Those were Shelley's Franklin. The Shelley's Franklin and the Natal Franklin. Thanks, Kada, for the tweet. Kada would have tweeted that to hashtag Safari Live. Difference between the Shelley's and the Natal. Well, the Natal has got red feet and red beak. The Shelley's doesn't have a red beak or red feet, but it is colourful, much like the Natal Franklin. So, we'd have to look in daylight, but tomorrow, remind me tomorrow if you can, and I'll open the bird book. It'll be very difficult now with the light, opening up the bird book. Beautiful afterglow though. And I've made my way here at this time of the evening for a specific reason, because we're heading back towards Impala Plains, and it's the last place I saw leopard tracks. And I can't give up on these cats. I've followed so many cats today and not had any luck, and I'm hoping that maybe we will. I know that Scott had some great luck in finding the Nkuhumas that were on our northeastern corner. Northeastern corner. Gosh, I had to think about that for a minute. and then they crossed over. So they've done a fairly large loop. If we go by the tracks that we saw this morning, going all the way up Gowrie Main, all the way into Torchwood, looping around at Torchwood Dam and coming back to Cheetah Cut Line, and then going off, I think maybe heading off north into Buffalo. Not too sure which direction they went in. But glad that you got to see them, because at least some of the tracking paid off this morning in that we had a general idea of where they were, and they were found in Torchwood after I couldn't follow their tracks anymore, and Andrew managed to find them. And then waiting for Karula to come out of the woodwork, and of course she turned around and went back off of our boundary, and then finding leopard tracks and following them and not getting any luck. So this is where we ended up with those leopard tracks today. And well, I just hope that maybe somehow he might be waking up, and I might just get a little bit of a reflection out of his eyes if he did hang around. I don't know if he did. Certainly didn't find any more tracks today, and tomorrow will be a good idea to come down here and have a look, because we don't have any others to start off on. He would be the best bet to come around Zoe's Road onto this road that goes up to Sandy Patch, to see if he woke up and started heading around on any of these roads. But since it's getting dark and a cat's likely to be waking up if it was sleeping most of the day, I thought it would be a good place to start just before we head home. He must have laid up somewhere. Yeah. Okay. Maybe Tom, hop onto Scott's vehicle and, well, catch up with you later.
Welcome back, everyone, and you've come to us at a good time, potentially. I saw the eyes reflecting of a bush baby. It's a small nocturnal primate, really cute, but now it's just about trying to find exactly where it was perched. They can spring huge distances very easily and therefore cover huge ground in a matter of seconds, and that's what makes finding them a little bit tricky. And this one appears to have bounced off. Hold on a second, I think I've got it there, Brian.
Brian, come in. Standing by. Yeah, where you are, because we're not going to stay with him too long, I don't think. I've just turned on
so
to
in amongst all of those branches, you can make out very vaguely a small animal turning its head around, and it's got very big eyes. Oh, there, it's cleaning itself a little bit. And this is the bush baby. They feed on nectar as well as gum and sap from the trees, and stay hidden in cavities during the day. This one would have just come out now and is spending some time preparing itself for a night out. And thankfully we managed to get a glimpse of it, even though it's in thick vegetation now. Once it has finished cleaning itself, it could begin to hop off, and I really would like to see how dull they are.
Right.
We get a chance to do a little bit of night driving tonight. And that first sliver of moon must be so close to the sun. Not us, it'll be tomorrow night that we'll see the first bit of the sickle of the new moon, and then be watching as the moon waxes over the next 2 weeks to full. That there are termites that are busy at the top of the chimney. Hello, Teresa. Teresa's in Virginia Beach, referring to a night some time ago, a few years ago, when we went frogging at Chela Pan. Chela is the Shangaan word for frog, and when that pan fills up, it gets quite busy. My guess is that what they are doing is they are sealing it up. Something must have broken this termite mound today, and probably quite detrimental to the colony. Be interesting to know what it is. But the worker is very, very busy. We'll be able to come by here again tomorrow over the next couple of days, and we'll see how close they are to closing up that hole. But closing up that hole is tantamount to having a gash in your body and preventing infection. Excuse me.
A little bit further on. So yeah,
this radio is quite distracting. Not the time of the year for termites to be busy. Anyways, Teresa wanted to know if we're ever going to go frogging again, and sadly Teresa, the wrong time of the year. The reason why it worked the last time we went out was because it was midsummer. Now you see, frogs, there are some frogs around. I mean, we might find toads that will come out and they'll come to water to hydrate in the evenings, and maybe even the great tree frogs that might be estivating, sitting in the trees somewhere, being very, very pale. They might come down to water in the evenings and absorb water. They absorb water through the skin, especially on the upper hind legs. Through the skin on the hind legs is where they rehydrate themselves. But most frogs in a dry environment like this are what we would maybe term crash breeders. They are frogs who require a certain amount of water and a certain amount of humidity, and not only that, but also the insect life that comes with it for them to breed. And so it's very critical that they breed after very heavy rainfalls. And it's quite interesting because the puddles that form have to persist long enough for the frogs to go through their entire metabolism from tadpole to frog, or rather from egg to tadpole to frog. And so it becomes quite intense, where all the species, all the members of the same species will gather around a waterhole, and there'll be a cacophony of sound as the males all vie for the attention of the females. They will mate, lay eggs, or she'll lay the eggs. They'll be fertilized by the males, and And we're going for Scott. Back to the bush baby.
Welcome back everyone, and we've just got another glimpse of a bush baby, and we feel that this one we might be able to show you a better visual of. It's very close to us in this tree, so hold thumbs, we might get close.
Brian, coming for Alex. Standing by.
Absolutely awesome. Look at how cute this creature is. It's got massive eyes, also very big ears, which it helps to detect prey, which it feeds on, little insects, but it also feeds on gum from trees. This is certainly the best bush baby sighting I've ever been able to share with you, and they are such cool little animals. So as I was saying earlier, they are primates and they are nocturnal, so we don't see them very often. And this one looks so relaxed. Looks like it might actually fall asleep any second. Well, I'm happy that... Oh, morning! Wow. Now it's got its eyes properly opened. This is the lesser bush baby. You also get a greater bush baby. And sadly we don't see the other one here very often. This is the smaller of the two. And it's tiny. It's probably... its head's probably half the size of a tennis ball, to give you an idea of size. And it's obviously waking up after a long day of sleep, but it is going to have a very active night ahead of it, foraging for snacks. Can't believe how relaxed it is with us here. We are actually so close. I'm just trying to shine the torch so it's not too bright, using only the peripheral beam. Well, we're going to leave this little critter to its own devices, because we've had such an awesome view of it and don't want to overstay our welcome. And I hope you all enjoyed that close-up view of such an awesome little animal that we very seldom get to share with you. Bye-bye, little bush baby. Now, the reason why I left it is that we were shining a bright light in its eyes, and it may have had some effect on its vision, or it certainly would have had some effect on its vision, so I didn't want to stay there too long. We don't know what predators could be lurking, and by shining a spotlight on a stationary animal like that for a prolonged period of time could alert its whereabouts to another animal, and that we certainly wouldn't want. And it looked so comfortable there that I didn't want to stay any longer and disturb its evening. It had been so good to us, so the least we could do was repay the favour to a degree to that same bush baby, and maybe next time we drive past the road we'll get the same very welcome response that it did show us when we arrived. I think that could be Mark driving up to our right. We both headed into a similar area, hoping that the male leopard tracks that he had would pop out, and that's the light you can see shining ahead of us. No luck this evening, sadly, with the leopard hunt today, but that's not to say we won't get lucky tomorrow morning, and I cannot wait already for the morning adventure. It's always exciting. We never know what to expect in the mornings, and what I can assure you is that both Mark and myself will be focusing on trying to find a leopard, but there are so many other animals that we can also show you, which is the great thing about being out here. Possibly some giraffe, the giraffe that I saw this afternoon. I saw some tracks, and it looks like Mark stepped up ahead of us, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a flyby, and what you can do is jump onto his vehicle as we go past, and he can say goodbye to you. But from myself and Brian, thanks very much for following us, and thanks to the girls in Final Control. It's been another wonderful day, and we're going to hand you over to Mark in just a few seconds. Evening, Marcus.
Nice enough to do.
It is, Mr. Weiner. How are you doing?
Is this the source of the farm?
Okay.
Looks like it's the source of the Kalahari.
Yeah, well, we both ended up in the same spot trying to find that leopard, but no luck this evening.
No. And then I touched on Arathusa and I found Tingana's tracks, but then he was heading so far west and then I just didn't have signal anymore.
Okay.
But they looked like fairly fresh tracks.
Okay, well, I think all our time invested today is going to pay off tomorrow, and hopefully we will get lucky. Anyway, I'm going to let everyone jump onto your vehicle so you can say goodbye to them, and I'll see you back at camp.
Okay, I'll see you back at camp. You get dinner ready.
I will.
Okay.
Cheers, man.
Let's go. Bye. Well, that's quite strange, bumping into Scott like that on our way home. It's a nice way to end off. It means that we sort of in sync in a way in how our minds are thinking alike, and we didn't even have to communicate. He was doing certain roads over there where the leopard could have gone, and I was doing the roads here where he could have come to as well. But sadly, we just didn't really have any luck today. And it just is the way things go. It does make it a little bit frustrating. It makes us even more eager to find the things in the morning. But it gives us an idea of where animals are, and it's a good place to start for tomorrow morning. And tomorrow is another day. That's the wonderful thing about it. We've got a lovely glowing sky out there. Stars are going to be bright. It's clear as clear can be out there tonight, and it's probably going to be quite chilly. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for being part of Wild Earth. And I hear another car. My name is Mark. VM has been on camera. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Good night. Goodbye. Love you lot.